Buenas noches a todos. Un placer volver a teneros por acá. Esta noche seguimos sumando eventos dentro del capítulo DAMA Perú y bueno, para nosotros es un tremendísimo placer y un completo honor tener al mismísimo Scott Taylor, como os comentábamos a lo largo de las diferentes publicaciones que hemos ido haciendo para el evento. La realización del mismo será en idioma inglés. So if you let me switch into English kindly. And as said, for us, it's a pleasure having such a great speaker as Scott Taylor with us. He'll introduce himself in a while, so I just would like to tell you all that Scott is a great, well-known speaker all around the globe. He's better known as the data whisperer. He talks a lot about master data management and data storytelling. That is the topic that he's chosen for today. So no more words to say. It's just a pleasure. And Scott, please welcome again. And here is the Peruvian public with you.
Gracias, Moisés. How are you? Nice to see you. Thanks for having me, everybody. Can you hear me okay? We're good with sound, I assume? We're good with sound here? All right. Hello, everyone. Scott Taylor, the data whisperer, right? I help calm data down. That's what we all do in the data management spaces. We help calm data down. Let me work on this settings here. I don't want to block my own slides. There we go. Should I be smaller? Should I be bigger? Okay. Learning this right here, run around the world. There we go. Anyway, yes, I'm around the world on this virtual world tour and speaking to all the different DAMA chapters, and certainly delighted to be here today in Peru. Earlier today, I was in Indiana in the Midwest of the United States. And then this morning, the first session I did was in Germany. So the beauty of digital travel, now that I can't go anywhere, I can be everywhere, and I'm certainly delighted. Wish I was there in person. Never been to Peru. Hopefully someday I can make it down there when all this craziness is over. But I want to thank Moisés and the folks at DAMA Peru for having me and letting me share with you my ideas, my thoughts, my approach to this concept of telling your data story. And we're going to talk today about leveraging what I call the 3 V's of data storytelling for data management. Obviously, there's a knowing wink to the 3 V's that everybody knows of big data, but these are a little different. These are about storytelling. So those 3 V's are vocabulary, voice, and vision. And we'll take a look at those in a moment. And feel free to post if you like, take screenshots. We will share the PDF of the presentation afterwards. I'll make sure all the members can get a hold of that. And we'll see how it goes here. And I'll take some questions at the end if you don't mind. So think about those, put them in the chat room, and you can help me kind of work through these questions as we go on. So let me get myself oriented here. But before I go much further, I want to thank my sponsors, the folks who actually support me to do this kind of work. The first one, Wind Shuttle, great group out there, been since 2003, been providing MDM and PIM and process automation software, particularly for SAP. So if you're interested in doing any of those things, please let me know, as well as a great consultancy I work with as well. My other sponsor, the Comma Group, they're out of the UK. They were recently acquired by Amplify, which is in North America, but they are very focused consulting and system integrator only around MDM, master data management, that most important data that I'm going to talk about a lot today. Master data, reference data, metadata. Those things don't get enough coverage as far as I'm concerned. So let's see if we can have an exciting hour about data management. That's something that people don't say often enough, that's for sure. So every enterprise has a data story to tell. And it's about why managing data is of strategic importance to your company. We're all looking for more support. We're looking for business stakeholders to be more involved. We're looking for our C-level executives to care about what we're doing in data management. And every one of us is looking for more funding. How do we get the money for the kind of work that we know is so important for our organization? Yet most people don't even understand it. They think it's back office or clerical or boring or why do we even need it anymore when we have all this new technology? Obviously, we know it's really important. But how do we get the people who aren't on this webinar, who aren't in your meetings, to realize data management is one of the most important disciplines any enterprise has? So today I'm going to talk to you about my data story, why you should even believe me. Moisés gave me a nice intro there, but I'll show you some data behind my data story, how I got involved in this space. Talk about why you need a data story, the relevance of data management, the context of all the other things going on in technology, the types of data storytelling, leveraging these 3 V's, vocabulary, voice, and vision, and then putting it all in play. I'll show you an example of where we pulled it all together and made it work. Now, I don't do data management myself. I've been working though with a lot of practitioners. So I talk about talking about it. You do that hard work. You're the practitioners, you're the experts, you're the leaders. So hopefully, because of my soft skills, I can help you, just give you a new way to talk about what you already know. We tend to get focused way too much on how we do it. We have to talk about why we do it. So I wrote this book, Telling Your Data Story, Data Storytelling for Data Management. If you can see right on the cover there, it's 99% buzzword free. We got too many buzzwords in the space. We got to get rid of some of them. So I tried to write this and share my ideas in very simple, basic, business accessible language. And one of my favorite reviews so far says it's a must read for anybody who needs funding for data management. And again, that's all of us, isn't it? It's published by Technics Publications. They're the publisher of DEMBOK, if you follow that too, if you've got that textbook on data management as well. But I thought I would open up the space a little bit and write about the storytelling part. And I'm thrilled. My book is the #1 data book on Amazon in performing arts. For some bizarre AI-based Amazon categorization process, my book was put in a couple of categories, including the performing arts category. So even though I only ranked 193 in all of performing arts, I looked at the rest of the books. They were about dancing, they were about music, they were about acting. No other data books. That makes me the #1 data book in performing arts. See that? You can make the data do whatever you want if you position it correctly. And as I mentioned, I'm about the why, not the how. We need both, that's for sure, but you have to look for that balance. And if you want funding, if you want support from your C-level, they won't pay for the how unless they understand the why. You've got to get them to understand why managing data is of strategic importance to your organization. So I learned all of this as a master data advocate, reinforcing that strategic value of data management by working at a number of iconic data brands throughout my career. 25 plus years in the space, worked at Nielsen for about 15 years. I was at Dun & Bradstreet for a while. I consulted with WPP and Kantar, the world's largest ad agency, all helping them sell, position, and understand the value of taxonomy assets, master data content that they had that we sold as a service, ways to integrate customer data, your data, into a more standardized fashion. So that's where I got the experience to talk to every kind of company in every category all over the world. So great experience that I had that I tried to collect and put in my book. And I provide today what I call data evangelism as a service, a way to get people excited about the great work that you do. And I work with enterprises like many of you represent, helping them put their data story together. But I also work with tech brands and software companies such as Comma Group and Windshuttle to help amplify their story, train their salespeople, do some marketing content for them. But it's all around getting people to believe in the value of what we do. And I do a lot of content. If you haven't seen it already, you absolutely have to check out my puppet show. That's right, the only puppet show in the data management space. It's called Too Much Tech Talk. It stars two of my favorite characters, the CDO, the Chief Dog Officer, and the ITB, who only talks in buzzwords. I've got a cartoon called the superhero backstory of master data, that most important data. And I even shared a couple of bad data ideas you want to avoid. And in case you haven't noticed, spoiler alert, I don't do a lot of whispering. We save whispering for the data, help calm that data down. But we've got to sell, tell, and yell about the power of data management. I'm thrilled to be the #1 thought leader in big data, according to Thinkers 360. I recently hosted a 26.2-hour master data marathon event around the world, around the clock, that was sponsored by ThinkLinkers. And I was also put on the who's who of data management. So I guess I know what I'm talking about. And I think I'm kind of hardwired for the master data, taxonomy, ontology space, because my parents told me instead of building with my Lego blocks, I sorted them. If you sorted your blocks when you were a kid, that's why you're in data management today. If your kids sort their blocks, we want to encourage that. You can build that beautiful Lego castle, but if your blocks aren't all organized and sorted and structured in an organized fashion, you're never going to get there. So we need block sorters and we need block builders. I'm from the block sorter side. Now, part of what inspired me to put this book together is I was listening in the marketplace. That's what I do all day, hear how people talk about data. And all this talk about data science and data literacy and data storytelling. Where's the voice of data management? I didn't hear it. I don't know if you heard it, but I didn't hear it loud enough. I certainly didn't hear it as loud as the data science folks talk about it and everybody in analytics. So I really felt there was a need to start talking about that data management story as well. And a lot of people kind of agree with this perspective. If you follow Dataversity and read some of their blogs there, two other iconic members of the data management space, Tom Redmond, the data doc, and John Landley, who I just shared an agenda with in the Indiana meeting earlier today, they wrote this blog that said data management has failed. And that as a community, we have failed to educate leaders and craft messages that people will listen to. I couldn't agree more. I'm not sure I totally agree with the drama of that headline. So I wrote a blog after that, the headline of which was data management hasn't failed, but data management storytelling has. So let's not kill the messengers. Let's just fix the messaging. Data management messaging is very hard to listen to. And as I wrote, an overwhelming majority of data management programs suffer from an inability to demonstrate and then communicate business alignment. That's two things. You've got to demonstrate it and then communicate it. You have to do it and then you have to tell people about it. It's just like evangelism. You got to get people to believe and then you got to get them to practice. So that's where I got my skills in helping people do that. And just a fun fact here, their blog was number 9 last year. Mine was number 10. So people were reading those messages one right after the other. But we certainly hit on a topic that I think a lot of people are interested in. Now, McKinsey even reinforced it as well. So if you follow them, and they certainly get paid enough to think up big thoughts, they published this white paper last year, 6 ways to drive data governance excellence. And I looked at these 6 things, and 3 of them, secure top management's attention, integrate with primary transformational themes, generate excitement about data. All 3 of those things require you to have a better story. Those need to tell a data story if you want to get those done. How else do you get attention? How else do you understand and align with those transformational themes? How do you get people excited? A story is very much part of all of that. So transformational themes that are getting the attention of the C-suite are the kinds of macro trends that I'm displaying on this slide here. Whether it's e-commerce that a lot of companies had to jump into recently because of COVID. You might have been in it already, but there's some companies who got rushed right into it. All of a sudden, they couldn't sell directly. They had to go to e-commerce. Or if you're providing an as-a-service offering or account-based marketing, if you're concerned with know your customer, KYC in the financial space, or every company that's looking at and trying to understand data privacy regulations, whether it's the Internet of Things or digital transformation or the entire 4th industrial revolution, I will suggest to you that all of those need data management. You can't get any of those done without that highly structured, expertly stewarded content underneath, those foundational piece parts that we all know make everything else go. If you don't govern that data correctly, you're not going to be able to do all those things. So it's actually, data management is macro trend agnostic. No matter where we were 5 years ago, no matter what we're focused on today that's on this slide, no matter where we're going in 5 or 10 years, it's always going to need that foundational content. The world and the expertise that you have is required no matter where an organization's going. So I try and cut through all that big hype and listen for those new trends and go, okay, that's not going to work unless we've got data management, that's for sure. Now, it leads me pretty quickly to this idea that I'm sure you all know and heard of, GIGO, garbage in, garbage out, rubbish in, rubbish out. I like to elevate it maybe to goodness in, goodness out. There's a positive spin to it. But this whole concept, I think, is more aligned to the golden rule of data. Do unto your data as you would have it do unto you. What you put in is what you get out. What you do in data management directly connects and reflects what happens in business intelligence. There's no two ways about it. So if you put garbage into an ERP, you get a lousy ERP. You put garbage into CRM, you get missed customer opportunities. Garbage into fintech, you might get a visit from the regulators. Garbage into ML, bad robots. Garbage into BI, BS. Garbage into AI, AS, artificial stupidity. No matter how you slice it, no matter how you dice it, the golden rule of data prevails. Do unto your data as you would have it do unto you. Now, the truth about data management is that the value of every digitally transformative customer-facing initiative, every as-a-service offering, every foray into e-commerce, every enterprise software implementation is inextricably linked to the successful output of data management efforts. A really long-winded way of saying GIGO, but we've got to change the way we describe what we do so people understand it. Those things that are listed there, business people don't always realize that data management is so important for all of them. So data storytelling, the topic of today, is probably the hottest non-technical thing going on in the data space. Everybody's talking about data storytelling, data literacy, ways to understand what data is and talk about it. But data storytelling is almost exclusively focused on analytics, on business intelligence. There's 9 books right there from great writers all about visualization, putting data and insight into stories that drive action, helping the business understand how to put data to work for the objectives they have. This is important stuff, but that's the output. That's where data ends up. I feel like there's a story about where data begins, and that's data storytelling for data management, where there are 2 kinds, the one for business intelligence, the one for data management. Everybody needs both, but we've got to beef up the data management side. So when I think about analytics, I really think of that as a way to derive meaning from data. And those disciplines of data literacy, data science, machine learning, artificial intelligence, visualization, all there is important ways to derive the meaning out of data and put it to use. So however, on the other side, data management is about determining the truth in data first. We've got to determine the truth. We've got to establish the truth. You can handle the truth, that truth coming out of data governance, data quality, master data, reference data, metadata, MDM, RDM, PIM, DAM, all those foundational activities that build that strong content that really enable what people want out of analytics. So these 2 kinds of data storytelling, you've got the one for analytics, telling stories with data and using it. Then you've got the other kind of data storytelling that I focus on, which is about the data and making it. Again, every organization needs both. You don't have to choose, but we do need to have both. And to reinforce this kind of connection, truth before meaning. You must determine the truth first before you derive meaning. It's not chicken or egg here. It is egg and omelet. If you don't have truth in data, you will not get meaning that your business can use. Obviously, I'm on the truth team, hence the meaning of my truth hat here, but you've got to determine that truth first. That's where data starts. And just one note, I don't mean this in a personal sense. Some people hear this truth and meaning and start thinking about all these developmental, philosophical, personal journey things. There is no common truth. How do we find the truth? What's the meaning of life? This is business, okay? That's what we're talking about. We're talking about commercial business. We're talking about enterprise activity. There is a way to find the truth, that common truth of what a customer is, of the hierarchies you need, of the segmentation that drive your business, of the market geographies you need to track. There is truth to be found and established in your organization, and you have a lot of expertise to help them get there. So don't let anybody kind of distract you with this whole personal truth stuff. We'll save that for when we're not working. Now, how do you start your data management story? A lot of people like to go right to the analyst here. I always love sharing this. I don't know how valuable it is, piece of information from Gartner. They did a survey on organizations measuring the value of master data, the most important data any organization has. And they found that 90% said no, we do not measure it. And 10% said other. I certainly hope yes is in that other. Or do you start it with the terminology we have in the space? That's very confusing, and sometimes people don't even understand what it is. How about you walk into your CEO's office and say, we need a golden record, and they go, that sounds expensive. Yeah, it does. Again, listen to the words you use to describe what we do. Are they words that the business side already understands, or are you trying to teach them a whole bunch of terminology before you even get to the point? You've got to use the language of the business. Or another way people try and start their data management story is with something like this. There you go. A beautiful data model. Look at how much work they put into this. That's a spectacular illustration of how it's going to work. This has got nothing to do with why. And if you put this in front of a CEO, they're just going to say, why are you showing me this? Why do I need to hear about what you're talking about? So save the technical stuff. Obviously, it's super important. You'll never get it done without it, but that's not going to help you move that story along. So the way to start your data management story, and every enterprise has a data story, is to focus on the essence of your business, the purpose of your business. Why does your business exist? And your business, I would suggest to you, exists to provide value to your relationships through your brands at scale. I'll repeat that. Provide value to your relationships through your brands at scale. The at scale part, that's where you come in. You can't do things at scale without technology, and you can't have technology that works without data, and you can't have data without data management. I think that's three moves to checkmate there. So very quickly, if your organization wants to provide value to their relationships through their brands at scale, then they're going to need data management to do it. Now, a way we define value, there are three ways that companies define and capture value. How do they help them grow, help them improve, and help them protect their business? Growth could be increased sales. Improvement could be operational efficiency. Protect could be mitigate risk. But those three things, that's the primary focus of a company. In fact, there's very little, if anything, a company does that isn't related to how it grows, how it improves, and how it protects itself. Now, this is a very generic statement, providing value to relationships through your brands at scale. And you want to start to apply it to your business. And ways to do that is to fill in the blanks. Again, what do you mean by grow and improve and protect? And also, what do we mean by relationships? Depending on your business, you might call them different things. Customer, vendor, partner, prospect, consumer, citizen, patient, client, all the different names you might use for the relationships you have in your business. But if you don't have relationships, you do not have a business. So it is, again, the most important data you've got is about your relationships. Now, you might call it different things, as I mentioned. If you're in the consumer packaged goods world or fast-moving consumer goods, you call the retailer a customer and you call the end user a consumer. If you're at a law firm, You never call anybody a customer, they're clients. Again, the terminology you use will be very specific to your business, but they are always about relationships. So think about what do you refer to your relationships as? Now that second bucket in brands, what do we mean by that? That could be product, service, offering, location, banner, finished good that is made up of materials and ingredients, all these different piece parts that go into the brand you have. Now, if you've been watching here and you notice all of those blue words and all those green words are classic master data domains. So when people talk about their relationships and talk about their brands, you've got to remind them, how's the data you've got on that stuff? Is it good? Does it work? Do we have lots of duplicates, bad hierarchies, missing segmentation, confusing geographies? That's all the master data and reference data and data management work that we have to do at the foundation to make that kind of aspiration happen. Now, digital transformation is absolutely a way to provide value to your brand, provide value to your relationships through your brands at scale. It's probably the definition of it. And digital transformation is made up of a lot of things. People generally accept it's people, process, tech, and data. And I'm focused on data's role in digital transformation, and by extension, data management activity that supports any organization's digital transformation. So my conclusion right away is digital transformation is the foundation. Our data management is the foundation of digital transformation. And every organization I've dealt with goes through these three phases of digital transformation on their journey. They start with this idea of a legacy state in multiple silos. They've got different departments, sales, marketing, finance, operations. They've got different systems that support those different departmental activities. And sometimes each of those creates a different version of the same kind of data. Disparate systems with differing definitions that lack any kind of internal standard. It plagues every kind of organization at some point or another. And legacy doesn't necessarily mean old. It just means you're siloed and not connected yet. So you could have bought a brand new CDP, a customer data platform last week, stood it up in marketing and created a new definition of customer. So the idea of being integrated comes next, and that's when you're part of an integrated enterprise and become relationship centric. How do we take those most important parts of our business and put them at the center of what we do, both systematically and strategically? So this idea of relationship centricity, customer 360, product 360, all that kind of geometry works for me, but it's this holistic view, this common view, this standard shared view of those most important parts of your business. And so everybody at every level can get whatever they need whenever they need it in the right context and trust that content to do the work they need to do. Now, I'm not going to tell you how to design it. It might be virtually, it might be physically, whatever that is, but that concept is very relevant to every kind of organization who struggles in managing their relationships and supporting their brands. Now, you can go from a legacy state to an integrated enterprise. That's definitely progress, but you have to go further for digital transformation to become part of a trust network in a connected ecosystem. How do you connect? How do you interoperate? How do you share? How do you partner with other parties on a systematic and repeatable basis? That network that you build of those trusted relationships that you interact with is often fueled by the data you've got about those relationships. So it has to connect. Now, a trust network is wonderful. You want to get there from being relationship centric, and you certainly want to move out of these multiple silos. And the two universal requirements to do that, to move along that path, are authenticated identity and a common data structure for relationships and for brands and all the other domains that you care about. And that's the work of data management, authenticating that identity, validating those entities, making sure there's not duplicates. Did you search before you created? All those kind of processes that we do up front to make sure that the data that we give to our organization is trustworthy. And then having a common data structure so you can share it between parties and across different markets as well throughout that network. Now, if you look at kind of the value you bring, my view is the deeper you get, the deeper the interoperability, the greater the value. So you start in this legacy state, not a lot of connection, not a lot of value. You move to an integrated enterprise, more interoperability, more value, till finally you're in this connected ecosystem, tremendous amount of interoperability, and a much more value. And following along on this idea of universal requirements for authenticated identity and a common data structure, what you're trying to achieve is semantic consistency, that consistency of data at ever increasing levels. That helps you move across that curve, that helps you get across those phases of digital transformation. So it starts off in that legacy state where you're just trying to get methodologies to unite and integrate, or even just spreadsheets. Think about it. When you get two spreadsheets and you try and bang them together, how hard is it? It can be very difficult. It's really easy to add columns, but it's really tough to align the rows. Got to get the rows right. The columns are about the rows. That's why that data's on there. So if those rows aren't aligned, that's where you get those duplicates. That's where you get those hierarchies that get messed up. Now, I know a lot of you are a lot more sophisticated than that, but when you describe it to a business person, we just want to get these tables correct, rows and columns. So you're trying to connect this data at ever increasing levels, as I mentioned, through methodologies and processes across different workflows, then departments, apps, platforms, then enterprises, value chains, verticals, ecosystems, entire marketplaces, working off of a common data set or shared data or links to the same data or crosstabs to the same data, whatever it takes for all the parties to have a common understanding. And that's scale. That's when that happens. So you can do things instead of 10 times, you can do them 100. Instead of 1,000, you can do 1,000,000 times because you've got that data that really drives those processes. Of course, it takes software. Of course, it takes hardware, but none of that works right unless the right data content is in there. Now, for so data management is the foundation of digital transformation. It helps provide semantic consistency. It enables deeper interoperability, and it creates greater value. Now, if you're looking for some examples of connected ecosystems that are driven and built on these universal requirements, you don't have to look any further than probably your smartphone. Amazon, Uber, Airbnb, Netflix, they're all built off of this highly structured data. Amazon has a code for every product, and attached to that product code is its category, its geography, its manufacturer, all the things it needs to be able to serve up the next products to you. You bought this kind of thing, it knows you want more of this kind of thing. Netflix does the same thing. You watch this kind of movie, you want more of that kind of movie. It's all going to get tagged and coded and structured, reference data, metadata, master data, all behind the scenes that most people don't even realize is there. And that's not new concept. If you look at that middle graphic, the UPC, the barcode, the GTIN, celebrated 50 years of 50-year anniversary a couple weeks ago. That small code there on every box, bottle, bar, bag, can, jar, tube, and every kind of supermarket and store enables all kinds of interoperability, doesn't it? You just take a bottle of something, bring it up to the cash register, run it across the scanner, it goes beep. That little beep. That is well-structured data in action. That is master data in action for sure. If you didn't have that beep, you wouldn't have authenticated identity. And even things like design. If you look at those three swatches on the bottom, those are examples of the Pantone matching system. Each one has a PMS number that uniquely identifies that color in every system that's attached to it. So designers can share color swatches and know that the right color is going to be in the right place. All different forms of these kind of connected ecosystems and trust networks. And I found one, actually, I heard about this morning. Oreo ID, pretty tangible product. They've got a website now where you can customize your Oreos. You can pick the colors. You can even put your picture on it. You think they can do that kind of mass personalization if they didn't have well-structured data underneath? Absolutely not. And something I saw that was really funny, of course, the Oreo site has a cookie policy. I love that. So now let's talk about the 3 V's here of data storytelling. And these 3 V's again are vocabulary, voice, and vision. You want to establish an accessible vocabulary. You want to harmonize to a common voice, and you want to illuminate your business vision. So this first V, the words you use are so important. How do you talk about the work that you need support for? What kind of language do you use? If you want to speak to the business, you must speak in the language of the business. So avoid this legacy lexicon, what I think are kind of old, ineffective words that people use in our space, like data quality. I know that might seem a little shocking to some of you. Data quality is important. It's critical. You've got to measure it. You've got to monitor it. You've got to manage it, but it's not something that gets people excited on the business side. I don't know a single CEO who says one of my top 5 initiatives is to have better data quality. Even when you say that, why do you say that? Why do you want better data quality? It's to enable something else. So talk about that something else. Quality is a very emotional, subjective word, and it doesn't always ring true to the business side. Or words like cleansing and freshness and data hygiene. You want to clear a room? Bring a bunch of stakeholders in and say, well, we're all going to be part of a data hygiene project. They'll go running for the doors. So use more definitive words. Structure. We need to create a standard for our organization that covers our entire enterprise. We're trying to drive and enable interoperability. Active words, words that are focused on the end result, not on how you're going to get there. And obviously leverage the enterprise terminology you have for your relationships, for your offerings and brands, for your hierarchy, for your segmentation, for your market geographies, and use the nomenclature of your vertical. Every industry out there has some form of standard terms that they use. Learn them if you don't know them, but it's a shortcut to understanding for your business audience. They already know those terms, so leverage those. And a little vocabulary tip here, start with your own business glossary. If you've gone through that hard work to make sure you have a common definition of customer and you have a standard hierarchy structure with all the different levels, build to, ship to, plan to, sell to, whatever those things are, use those to describe what you want to as the opportunities. Harmonize to a common voice. And again, harmony doesn't mean everybody sings the same notes, but it does mean they all sound good together. And you want to share and propagate a narrative, your elevator pitch. How would you describe it today if you had 5 minutes with your CEO, if you had 10 minutes with your leadership team? If for some reason they want to bring you up and put you in front of the entire organization and talk about what you do, would you talk about the how, the technical stuff, or would you talk about why it works? So avoid all these in-depth technical explanations. Try and avoid a lot of these cliches. As I mentioned, data quality, important, but doesn't sell well. Data's the new oil. I mean, give me a break. Can we get rid of that cliche? Data's the new oil? No, it's neither, okay? Put that to bed. Lots of cliches out in the space that don't really make the point. You want a consistent tone and tenor. You all want to talk about it the same way. You may even need to create some internal communication vehicles. Just speaking about it is only the start. How do you reinforce that in writing, in videos, in newsletters, finding a data hero of the month who was able to use the master data you've got to close that deal or make that financial report better or drive some sort of operational efficiency? There's opportunities all over your organization, and you may need to create some sort of marketing program internally to support that. And when you look for analogies, when you look for imagery, reflect your own brand positioning and category. Use the way you talk about your business to talk about data management. If you're in logistics, it's all about moving products and shipping things from here to there. Well, in data, we have to know the source, we have to know where it's going, we have to know the process to get it there. If you're in healthcare, data is the lifeblood of our organization. A healthy business runs on healthy data. I'm just brainstorming here, but hopefully you get that point. Look for how your company talks about itself and borrow that. Replace words that they use with the word data and see if it works in your tagline. There's lots of shortcuts here. You don't have to start from scratch. And again, it shortcuts that understanding. Borrow the way your company talks about itself to talk about your data program and focus on those business topics: growth, improvement, and protection. And here's a voice tip. If you're not that great at the soft skills, seek out other storytellers in your organization who can help you. There's plenty of them in marketing. They tell stories. Sales tells stories for a living. If they can't tell a story, they don't make quota. And if you're part of a larger organization, you may have a formal communications department. They do media training. They help your leaders talk in front of the press. They can certainly help you structure a story, help you develop your public speaking skills or presentation skills, all these things that help you get up in front of a room with confidence and sell what you want. That story that you are telling is a sales pitch. Hate to tell you, if you're not in sales and you're not interested, you got to sell this stuff. And you're competing with a lot of other parts of the organization that are good at telling stories, like marketing and sales. So you got to step up and be able to match your peers in terms of your capabilities to make that point. The last B here, illuminate the business vision. What you do in data management must enable the strategic intentions of your enterprise. It has to be about why your company is in business and where it's going. And look for the major initiatives you have that focus on or talk about relationships and brands. Keep coming back to the same thing here. What kind of organization isn't focused on relationships and isn't focused on brands? All of them are. They're not going to talk about data quality. They're not going to talk about data management. They're going to talk about customer experience. They're going to talk about brand expansion. And you know that data is going to help them do that. And it's about your business. It's about the business, and you are all the business. I know we talk a lot about kind of IT and data versus the business side. You're all part of the business. And as I told my children, when they went into business and got jobs, it's impossible for you to know too much about your business. There's always something to learn. And if you look at it with a data eye, you'll find those opportunities. So some vision tips. What do your leaders say? That's an easy way to find out where your company's going if you're not that fluent in it. Look at your annual report, your strategy statements, your company meeting presentations. If you're a public company or a company looking for funding, look at your Investor Day presentation. It's an excellent source and resource for very cleanly articulating the goals of your company. So it's a great place to go to learn more about what your company's really trying to do if you're not exposed to it already. Now, leveraging these 3 V's of data storytelling, let's put it all in play here. And let me give you an actual example. So this is a slide from an Investor Day presentation. I'm drinking my own Kool-Aid here. I've done this before. This is from a real presentation I did for a Fortune 200 organization. For you today, I just took some snapshots and kind of made a little repictured what it all looked like, but to reinforce what I'm talking about. But this is all from their Investor Day presentation. And in that, I looked at, okay, let's find the vocabulary, the voice, and the vision to help position the importance of data management to this company. So let's find the vision. I wonder where it is. It's right there. It says our vision right on the page. Our vision, we aspire to be the premier partner of choice for our customers and partners and suppliers. Customers, partners, and suppliers. Relationships. It's right there. How hard was that to find? And when you think about the voice, their voice comes out in things in their strategic framework: customer engagement, enterprise effectiveness, brand management, grow, improve, and protect, differentiating the customer experience. That's what Oreo was trying to do, wasn't it? Different company, but a lot of companies are trying to do that. Localized productivity and efficiency. So the voice of their company, the way they articulate it, is all within those kinds of phrases. And then their vocabulary, absolutely a ton of it exists in these company fast facts. 90 different countries that they're in. Can you imagine how many enterprise systems they have? This company grew by acquisition too. It was a mess. And 800 suppliers in different categories, 100,000 customers with all kinds of hierarchy and segmentation. So that's where a lot of the vocabulary resides, in that kind of terminology. So their vision, their voice, and their vocabulary, we found that But now we have to make the point about why data management is so important. So a singular example here, we took a look at their data and we found they had 185 duplicates of the same record. Now, this is just one record in their customer file, but it's definitely representative of what the quality of that file was. 185 copies of the same record. There's nothing strategic about this. There's no excuses here other than just bad data coming in and lack of governance and lack of support for the data management process that we're trying to propose. 185 duplicates, those aren't all different ship-tos. Those are salespeople throwing stuff into systems. That's people not searching before they're creating. That's all kinds of trouble that I'm sure you've witnessed that create the garbage that goes into an organization, and then the garbage comes out. So their data reality was pretty stark. How could they possibly aspire to be the premier partner of choice for their customers when the data about those customers looks like that? So a little shortcut, a little sort of summary of a way I put all that together, and hopefully it's helpful for you. There's about 10 of these examples in the book. Try and take them apart and show how people kind of talk about the need for data management and the value without really talking about it. It's behind the scenes. But once you bring it into focus like this, I think once people recognize it, they really start to see it everywhere. Otherwise, it's hidden in plain sight. So leverage those 3 V's of data storytelling: the vocabulary or the words you use, the voice is the way you talk, and the vision is why it's important. So if you want to live happily ever after in this space, every enterprise has a data story to tell. It's about delivering value to your relationships through your brands at scale. There's 2 types of data storytelling: the one about data, data management, determining the truth, and the one with data, business intelligence, deriving meaning. Data management is macro, trend agnostic. No matter where we were, no matter where we're going, we're going to need it. And it is the foundation of digital transformation. Leverage those 3 V's: vocabulary, voice, and vision. And this compelling narrative will capture the hearts and minds of your business. It's a very emotional process telling stories, and it really grabs people at that emotional level. They feel about what you're talking about. And that can help actually motivate and unify your team, that they understand even themselves why the job they do is so important. Not for the next week or the next quarter for that department, but why data stewardship, as an example, is so important to where the company is trying to go. That gives those people some motivation as well. Lets them realize they're part of a bigger picture. I used to do these meetings for Dun & Bradstreet. I mentioned I worked there. They would call me in on these kind of command performances. And often our client contact would say, I want you to talk to our department so they understand how important their work is to their company. And I was an outsider. But somehow that storytelling process helped move that forward. So, telling your data story, there's my book. I'm happy to stop for a couple questions and a little sip of water here, and then I'll wrap it up. I don't know if anybody's got any thoughts or questions here. Let me check the chat. Where do I go? Not sure. Welcome to write them to me later or take a look, or Moisés, if there's anything in there, let me know.
I think there is a question from Diego, even it is in English, so I think you can directly answer to his doubt or inquiry. Can you read the chat?
Yeah, let's see. Oh, hello, Scott. Great presentation. Data story could be a type of art, too. What would be your advice when you have a strong resistance from the business side? And, for example, they don't consider data management as a key practice or only a technology effect. Should we always talk the business language as a starting point? Yes. So, very simple answer, yes. And by their nature, they're not going to expect it and understand it. They think it's kind of a back office sort of thing. But hopefully some of the tips and some of the angles I shared with you will help you break through to that. Again, the business side cares about their relationships. How's the data you've got about your relationships? There's always problems in those foundational parts. I kept repeating them, duplicates, hierarchy, segmentation, geography. I call those actually the 4 C's of master data. a code, a company, a category, and a country. I've got a couple of videos on that help people kind of explain this entity ontology to folks at a very simple level. But you've got to start with their business problems. And there's always problems, right? There's problems in sales. Marketing has trouble targeting customers, and they look at their category structure, and one of their biggest categories is other. They got a mess there in segmentation. Or you've got trying to drive some efficiencies in finance. The quote to cash process needs to be shortened, or your salespeople take forever to get a quote and a proposal out because they're grabbing information from all across the company, or your executive team is having trouble getting those annual or those quarterly reports out in a way that they trust them. Those kinds of listen for that trouble, listen for that pain, and know that data management can help them. And a lot of times we're overshadowed by the analytics folks. So we should pair up with them, but I also feel they should recognize the value of what we bring. I hear a lot of analytics people talk about, data has no value until it's turned into analysis, or, data is just a cost center until we get the data scientists on top of it. I'm like, stop that, okay? I mean, have you ever heard a baker say this flour has no value until I make it into bread? No, they don't talk that way because they respect the ingredients. So I think we've got to reach across to our analytics folks and get them to realize their work is important, but it depends a lot on our work as well. So hopefully that helps you. Wonderful. I think one of the most important parts is aligning with the business vision and to work with data management. Yes, thank you, Jose. Yes, absolutely. People talk about having a data strategy, and we can mince words here, but it's really the business strategy that data is enabling. The data strategy on its own, for me, doesn't make a lot of strategic sense. Just like, it always enables what the organization's trying to do. Thank you for your response. And what do you recommend to young data management professionals that are just starting? Hang in there, Diego. Well, you might want to get my book. That's a good start there. And the DevBox, learn the practical side, learn the how side, but absolutely don't just focus on that. Focus on understanding the business opportunities. I think data is one of the most exciting parts of any organization right now, and can actually transform an organization in ways that other departments can't. Sales isn't going to change the organization. Finance isn't going to change the organization. But even the examples I showed you, if there wasn't great, well-managed data in Uber and Airbnb and Amazon, they wouldn't be where they are today. So there's a lot of opportunities out there. All right.
Scott, I have a question for you. Sure. We have all heard about data evangelism, and many times it is sound or conceived as a bit fluffy, maybe. But I do think that it's very important to educate on data, on its value, on its importance. And even in my past professional experience, I also hired a data culture as the seed of a future data evangelist inside full-time. Have you ever seen in any company a role as a data evangelist, or it is something that each data leader, each CDO or similar should have in self?
I think the evangelist role, and I kind of, say I do it, I think that's something, within a company, that's going to be a hard role to justify as a role by itself. I think it's a spirit that you bring. A lot of the tech companies have evangelists because they're out there. I mean, face it, they're out there selling. So they got to get people whipped up and believing in it. And I did that too. I did that for Nielsen. I did that for D&B. But at an enterprise, I think if you're walking around and the only thing you do is a data evangelist, I think people on the business side will think that's rather fluffy. And so that evangelism spirit is certainly something that the leadership in the data side should embody and really personify. But I'm not an organizational expert, but I've rarely seen a business card from somebody who working in an enterprise and say, okay, my job is to be data evangelist. So it may not it may get cut a little too early if you've got it in there. But again, the spirit of it, you're all data evangelists, right? We're all data whisperers. We're all out there trying to spread the word. We're all out there trying to reinforce the value of what we do. And that's why I think some of the techniques I suggest help you organize that evangelistic spirit with a common voice and a common vocabulary and pointing it at that vision.
No, definitely there are a lot of weird roles all over the world. I have read something about the chief happiness officer, for example. So it's like,
okay,
a lot of racism. So I think there are no more questions, Scott.
Wonderful. I'll just wrap it up here. I got a couple of last slides just to close it up. Listen, if I can, let me help you tell your data story. This is what I do. If the book is something you're interested in, you can pick it up at technicspubs.com and you use my code Data Whisperer. You get 20% off, so you'll save a few bucks there for sure. But it's an easy read. You can't write a book about telling a quick story and have it be 500 pages. So it's a nice, tidy read there if you like it, or you can get it on Amazon. I also do this kind of thing: webinars, events, company meetings, team sessions, data storytelling, consulting, even at the enterprise level. So all those things, if any of this kind of help you think you might need, or you want to chat with me about it, I'm certainly open. I'm out there trying to help the data management community as much as I can. But at the very least, please follow me. If you liked any of this stuff and you're not following me on LinkedIn, just put your phone up to that QR code. It'll take you right to my profile in LinkedIn. Talk about being a data guy. And I've got 50 YouTube videos and counting in a playlist that you can subscribe to. Everything from rather serious, straightforward videos about the difference between MDM and master data, all the way on the other side with puppets and cartoons. But everything I do is all about the strategic value of proper data management. And hey, if you like this stuff and you want to put a recommendation in my LinkedIn profile, I'm certainly happy to accept those. Here's a really good example from Bruce Lee. Scott is the best and most entertaining public speaker I've ever encountered, period. I love that guy. Well said, Bruce. Thank you very much. But in all seriousness, I hope you follow me if the book is helpful. And one last thought I want to leave you with: good decisions you make on bad data are just bad decisions you don't know about yet. So gracias, everybody. Buenas noches. Thank you so much for inviting me. Thanks for sticking with me here, and hopefully telling your data story with the 3 V's helped you today. I'm Scott Taylor, the Data Whisperer, and have a great, great night.
Thank you, Scott. It's been a pleasure for us. I think all of us will go to bed with new and fresh ideas, and probably tomorrow it will be a fresh start in our data ways. So, Scott, thank you again. You are welcome whenever you want to come with to Dama Perú, and hopefully in the future you'll be able to visit the Machu Picchu and everything else. So, thank you very much, Scott.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And for the rest, buenas noches a todos. Muchas gracias por vuestra asistencia. Ha sido un placer teneros por acá. Y bueno, no perdáis el hilo comunicativo por LinkedIn, porque se vienen varias novedades ahora en el segundo trimestre para Dama Perú. Y bueno, seguimos esperando contar con toda vuestra asistencia. Y nada, como siempre, un placer. Muchísimas gracias y buenas noches a todos.